Hi guys, welcome back to Elementary Mathematics. Today is day 2, and to begin today, we will start by reviewing a few of those practice problems that you were given yesterday. So, first, at the bottom of the page, you'll see the problem that says 3/10 is equal to blank 100ths. Okay, as you can see, I have labeled 3/10 under my tenths graph, and I have labeled the hundredths under my 100 grid. So to begin it off, I'm going to go ahead and shade in 3/10. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, just like yesterday, we're going to do the same thing to the hundreds grid by looking at the rows and columns. And this time, since I have columns in my tenths grid, I'm going to go ahead and shade in my tenths grid I'm going to shade in tenths going up and down in columns, if that makes sense. So, starting here with my first column, I'm going to shade in 10. Next column is 30. And I am finished. So over here I have 3/10, and over here I have blank 100ths. If I were to count going down, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I know I have 10 boxes in each row, which means that instead of counting them one by one, which would take longer, I can simply count by tens. So, counting by tens, this is 10, 20, and 30. So when I look to find what's equivalent to 3/10 when using a hundreds grid, the answer would be 30, because again, counted those columns the same amount that was over here, 10, 20, and 30. Okay, so that is the answer for that problem. Let's move on to another one. The next one is going to be a you solve it problem on my tenths. So I'm going to put blank. I'm going to move my paper over too. So it's going to be blank tenths is equal to 60 100ths. Okay, so as stated before, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 individual blocks in each column. Therefore, instead of counting them one by one, I'm just going to count them by 10. Oh, and because this tenths grid is not in columns, it's in rows, I should probably count the other side. So, counting my rows instead of my columns, let's see how many is in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oh yeah, because it's a 100s grid, that means that there should be 100 marks or 100 boxes on this particular grid. So I'm going to shade across 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 40. And this is going to be the fifth one, which is going to equal 50. This is the sixth one, which is going to be 60. And oh yeah, I can stop because in my numerator there's a 60, and 60 tells me that there only should be 60 shaded. So I'm going to come over to my tenths block, and I want to shade the exact same amount that I see over here. Now again, I shaded these in rows. Each row had 10 blocks in them. So because this one is not cut up into hundreds, I can just shade the entire row. And because I shaded in 6 rows over here and it totaled to be 60, I'll do the same thing over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Is it even? Sure is. So that means the equivalent fraction for this one would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so another way that I want you guys to look at this is by what we call getting an even share, I guess. So, I always say look at the bottom numbers. Since we're dealing with tenths and hundreds, you always want to ask yourself, how do I get 10 to 100? Well, I know that the number is increasing, and the only way that the number can increase is by either adding or multiplying. I can add 90 to 10 and get 100, but when making equivalent fractions, one of the rules are whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So if I add 90 to the top, I'll get 96, which isn't 60, which leaves me with multiplication. So if I multiply 10 times 10, I get 100. And if I do the same thing to the top, 6 times 10, I get 60. So for this problem and every other problem, you want to multiply 10 on the top and the bottom, and 6 times 10 is 60, and that's how I get my answer, 6 tenths. Okay, so I am going to slide my paper up a little bit so that we can work another problem, and I must go this way. I'll be disappointed with myself. Okay, so let's look at another one of those problems that you were given. So another solve for the tenths problem. So blank tenths is equal to 90 100ths. Okay, this seems like a big one. So first, let's look at it in our number form. Okay, so in order to get 10 to 100, what do? We know we don't add, you multiply. So I put times 10. Whatever you do to the bottom, you gotta do to the top as well. So I'm going to multiply 10 again, and that's gonna lead me there. Oh wait, I don't know what's over here. So I have to find out what times 10 equals 90. Well, 90 divided by 10, because we can do that inverse operation to find out what actually goes over there. So 90 divided by 10 is going to be 9. Well, that means that 9 out of 10 rows should be shaded. Let's see if that makes sense, if it matches, if it is equivalent. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and one more, 9. So if this doesn't match up, then we'll have to do it again. But right now, let's hope it matches. Okay, so on this other side, it says 90 100ths. And again, over here, there's rows, so I will fill in rows. And because I know that each row has 10 in it, I'm just going to start shading, counting by tens. So that's 10. This is 20. This is 30. 40. 50. 60. 70. 80. And 90. Perfectly shaded. Everything shaded in. Does it match? Absolutely. I still have one complete row that is not shaded on both sides. So are these equivalent fractions? Absolutely. Okay, and for the last one, let's look at 5. Wait, it didn't say 5, but let's do it anyway. 5/10 is equal to blank 100ths. You should know exactly which one I'm looking at. If not, you'll see by the end. So just check over your answers and make sure that your answers are correct. Either way, the answer should be the same no matter which one I started with first. Okay, so this one says 5/10, and this time I have columns and not rows. So that means that I have to shade in 5 out of 10 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so what I'm looking at is that's half of it is shaded. So that's going to be my guide as I am doing this one. So again, if you use that same method when you're trying to find what gives you how can you turn the tenths into 100ths, that'll help you solve the problem. So how do I get 10 to 100? 10 times 10. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So I multiply 10 at the top as well. 5 times 10 is 50. So that means I have to shade in 50 boxes. So let's do that. Again, there's 10 in each row, so there's no need for me to count the boxes one by one. I'm just going to count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Okay, make sure that you shade in every part of those boxes. You don't want to accidentally not count anything, because that's how accidents happens, and we don't want to give away any minor mistakes. So shade all of it in, and it's about half still not shaded in, but we can count just to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is half of 10, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here as well. So are these equivalent fractions? Sure is. So that's all for that part of your homework. Now let's look at some other problems. Okay, and for these problems, we are going to just simply use the same method of trying to find out how to get from using tenths to 100. Sorry. Okay, so again, we're going to ask ourselves, how do I get from 10 to 100? Answer is You are right. Times 10. And whatever you do to the bottom, of course, you do it to the top. So times 10 up here too. And 1 times 10 equals 10. So that means that 1/10 is equal to 10 100ths. And if you remember that model, if I shade one row, it's exactly like shading 10 little boxes on the hundreds grid. So, and I'm going to go straight down this time, so it moves the paper from side to side. So, again, how do I get from this to this? Times 10. And that's going to be at the top as well, because whatever you do to the bottom, you gotta do to the top. But I'm gonna have to use the inverse over here a little bit. 70 divided by 10, and 70 divided by 10 is going to be 7. Small little trick I say use whenever you're multiplying or dividing by 10. In order to multiply by 10, you're adding a 0, and when you're dividing by 0, you're taking that 0 away. So 70 divided by 10, take that 0 away. Magic. Oh, it's 7. Okay, so 7/10. Okay, 2 more. Okay, this time instead of using the instead of not using the inverse, we are going to use the inverse in order to get here, but let's use let's not multiply, let's not write the multiplication first. Okay, so again, how do I get from this number to this number? Or since we're doing inverse, let's go backwards. So how do I get 100 to 10? Well, I know from previously working the last few problems that instead of multiplying 10, we want to divide by 10. So I'm going to put my little vision shot out here. Divide by 10, and we're going to do that to the bottom and the top. 100 divided by 10 is going to be 10, and 20 divided by 10 is going to be 2. So your answer is going to be 2/10. Okay, and now for this one. 100, again, using that inverse operation, divided by 10. Do it to the bottom, you can do it to the top. I think I've gotten good at this. I didn't even put my box that time. 100 divided by 10 is going to be 10. Oh, wait, no. I've got to do it the other way because I have a 10 there. So I need to multiply 10 instead. 10 times 10 is 100. And so in order to get here, I don't want to divide by 10. Not yet, because I don't know this. That's why I need that. Okay, so 10 times what? 10 times 10 is going to get me to 100. Oh, wait. 10 over 10 is equals to 1 whole. So that means this fraction would need to be 1 whole as well. And 100 over 100 is definitely a whole, because what that tells me is that out of 100 pieces, 100 of them are shaded. So definitely equivalent fractions. And I think we are done. So hopefully your practice items was a success. If you are still having more trouble, please just leave comments in the boxes below, and I will try to clear up any misunderstandings for you.